Aloha, everyone. Aloha, C. Davin.
Hello, everybody. We're almost there. Next 2 minutes, and then we'll get rolling.
Hi guys, did an agenda get sent out or is it in the chat maybe?
I can put it in the chat, but it was sent out.
Oh, it was okay. I must have missed it.
No worries. I will send it and see if I can. Oh, no, you know what? This one has no chat, but I can email it to you, see.
Did it go out this morning?
No, it went out like, I don't know, a few days ago. Hang on a second. I have to open my door. Okay, hang
Okay,
on.
yeah, sure, not a problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to start the meeting promptly at 1. I will wait till the email gets sent out with the agenda so everybody has it.
Sorry, guys. Gotta look for the file. Okay, this is the one. Insert, attach file. Okay. Okay,
Well,
hopefully you received it.
if you haven't received it, it's also on the shared screen, I believe, at this point.
Thanks, Dewey.
Yep. All right, we will call the meeting to order at 1:02 p.m. Once we've got confirmation that everybody has the agenda as distributed, I'll take down the shared screen. The first order of business, though it's not there, is I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Youth Services Committee meeting. My name is Tui Scanlon. I'm your chair. I'd like to acknowledge Carla Kurokawa, who is our vice chair. We have a full agenda, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is a public meeting under the open meeting law. The committee members and public guests are viewing in Zoom. We do not have staff in DLIR right now. So thank you all for the quick shift. To start the meeting and to document in the minutes, I'll ask the members and guests to introduce themselves. Start with Carla.
Paula Kurakawa with Alulike.
Thank you. Davin.
Hey, Davin Kalmura from Oahu Workforce Development Board.
Thank you. 1L.
Hi, Winel Kaneshiro, Workforce Development Branch at the Office of Superintendent, Department of Education.
Thank you. Leah.
Hi, Leah Diaz, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation.
Leah, apologies. Bennett.
Bennett Misalucha, Executive Director, Workforce Development Council.
Nisa Ann. Thank you, Bennett. Nisa, we can't hear you. You're not coming through. Still nothing. We'll come back to you. David.
Aloha, everybody. David Sun Miyashiro, Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can.
Copy that. Thank you. Doug.
Aloha Kako, Doug Adams, Director of Research and Development, County of Hawaii.
Copy that. Ms. Takahashi.
Aloha, Tia Chang Takahashi. You folks can call me C, and I'm with Parents and Children Together. I coordinate their underage drinking prevention coalition.
Copy that. Thank you. Matt Stevens.
Hi, everyone. Matt Stevens. I'm the Executive Director for the Hawaii Workforce Funders Collaborative.
Copy that. Thank you. I believe that is everybody. Okay. First things first, we'll need to approve the minutes of the April 2022-2024, April 22nd, 2024 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. If you would like to gain the floor, please raise your electronic hand or wave, vigorously at the screen.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Carla. Is there a second?
Whoever was there that time.
Doug. Or was there that time?
I think David was there that time.
I'll second.
Okay.
Who was the I? I'm sorry.
David.
Thank you.
Second.
Anyone on the question? Any revisions or additions?
It was,
Sorry,
okay,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If there are no revisions, is there any objection to approving the minutes as distributed?
It was posted on our website, just so you know, also, Tui.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Seeing no objection, we'll approve the minutes by unanimous consent. Minutes for April 22nd meeting has now been approved. I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Bennett Misalucha, to give us an update on what has been happening at WDC.
Excellent. Thank you, Tui. Well, first of all, I just want to, Tui, do you mind putting it back?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, first of all, express my appreciation for each one of you who takes the time to connect with our Youth Services Committee or Workforce Development Council for that matter. I know that you could, use your time elsewhere, but you choose to be here to lift our workforce. So that my gratitude to you is, sincere and heartfelt. And I just want to mahalo. Okay, so we are so happy and thrilled that after all this various milestones, we actually have been able to get approval, not a conditional, but unconditional approval for the unified plan. So we are going to be reaching out to the governor for his approval before the final implementation. The plan is really to make sure that it's not a document that's going to sit in a shelf somewhere gathering dust. The idea is to bring all the stakeholders together, the partners together, whether it be public, private, or nonprofit sectors, and then divvy up the work so that then we all feel invested into this process. So at the end of the day, this is not a public sector plan. It really becomes a state plan. There are wonderful elements in that plan that I hope you too will get excited about, and I would be happy to invite you to some of the future meetings that we're going to be having. So here are some of the events that are forthcoming in this year. In about a few days, on Monday, we're going to have our Workforce Development Council board training. It's actually the first time we're gathering workforce development boards from Oahu, from the Big Island, from Maui, as well as as well as staff. What's great about this is we have U.S. Department of Labor who is expending resources to send us technical assistance. So very knowledgeable people will be here. And as you know, I think even if you know WIOA, even if you already have been steeped in it, I think it's always good to, get an additional perspective or fresh perspective. So we're trying to organize a National Governors Association webinar on the national workforce trends. It's right now scheduled for July 2. It might get moved, but definitely it is on our radar because this was something we did last year and it actually was well received, and we want to be able to continue doing that. We are also working on something that we hope you will be interested in, particularly this committee, the Youth Services Committee. This is for youth coming out of the justice system. It is in collaboration with the state of Maine. So and last but not least, I actually just came back from Washington, D.C., where I was part of Hawaii on the Hill. Hawaii on the Hill is, as you know, a showcase sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. Now, the Chamber is cognizant that workforce development is such a current topic. And so they have a workforce development session. It was well attended. And I offer the introductory remarks. So, Chair, are there any questions from the folks on this call? Hearing none, Chair, I'm going to turn it over back to you.
Copy that. Thank you so much. Just a moment. So thank you very much for that, Bennett. We'll move into our roundtable discussion. So the Workforce Development Council's Youth Services Committee is doing a reset. And to better understand, if you recall, the landscape, we invited a number of you, those with various youth-focused organizations, at our April 22nd, 2024 meeting to present your particular focus. And mahalo to those who were able to join us then. Today's meeting, we're convening for a roundtable discussion, and the goal is to discern future steps to create career pathways for youth, especially those with barriers to employment. So here are the questions, and I hope we can have a robust and meaningful discussion. To start,
Chair,
yes.
do you mind? Maybe we can take down or do you still need this? What do you think? Okay, all right.
Nope.
Hopefully everybody has a copy of the agenda by now.
Hope so. If not, raise your hand. Does anybody not have the agenda? Okay. I see we're joined by Debbie Spencer with Adult Friends for Youth. Spencer Chun, excuse me. Hello. So to start, and this can sort of be, I wanted to let this kind of happen organically. Raise your electronic hands to gain the floor and just, share with the group, what are the primary barriers to employment that at-risk youth in our community face? And how do these barriers vary among different subgroups? For instance, age, gender, ethnicity, so on and so forth. Anybody, please just chime in. There's not real super formal structure. We want this to be sort of organically led. So anybody have anything to share on what you think the primary barriers to employment that at-risk youth in our community face? Okay, I'll start. So one of the things that was brought up is that especially at-risk youth who are in the correction system, access to their identification, right? To appropriate documents like birth certificate, Hawaii state ID, social security card. Those are, I mean, like just right out the gate, without those documents, that's a huge hurdle to overcome. That sets them back a few months if they don't have some sort of way to access those documents for proof of ID. And especially, I think that affects our youth that are English as second language learners, making it a little bit more difficult, like an additional barrier on top of not having their identification, how to navigate the system in the first place. And I think that could be low-hanging fruit, but maybe that is a more complex issue than I see it. That's the first one for me. Anyone else?
Sure. I think that we had an opportunity. I just had an opportunity today. Our National Guard Youth Challenge Academy, just the Hilo campus here, just conducted its graduation after 5.5 for 15.5-year-olds to 18-year-olds, and they're transitioning to a job challenge academy. And we were talking to the director and asked him about the process, and he says, you know, with the youth challenge, we give them some discipline, teach them some of those things that they may or may not have, but they don't necessarily then have the other skills that are necessary. And looking at, you know, what the U.S. Department of Labor does with its Job Corps Academy that's both on Oahu and now on Maui, you know, those activities, those opportunities that are being provided to the students that are able to go to those particular, you know, that they're really gaining because they're learning the skills, and we just don't necessarily see that. I know that we have Department of Education representatives on this call. I get concerned whether or not the academy structure that's set is being, I don't know if it's being funded enough, or if there's enough faculty support, or maybe there needs to be community support. But certainly, you know, those are some of the ways forward to try and make sure that we have at least some knowledge provided to students so that they're not totally without anything when they enter or try to enter the workforce.
Copy that. Anyone else?
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
So this is, I'm not as knowledgeable about this particular topic, but I see a connection with like the Department of Education with their ability to be able to see who are at risk, and that really working with maybe the counselors. When I first talked to Troy Sueoka, I said, you know, is there a way where we can connect with the counselors in a particular area where we know that the participation, for instance, at the AJC are such a small, at this very, very, you know, challenging level? Can we work with them to help them understand WIOA, help them understand what we're looking for? Because as it is, we are not able to spend the monies because we just don't have enough participants. So I don't know, Wanel, what do you think of that idea? I think we kind of like at some point we were talking about having a collaboration. Do you remember this? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a good idea to get our counselors involved because they are our frontline with our kids. If we're talking about barriers and how do we get our kids into some kind of employment, one of the bigger barriers is transportation, and how do we get them there to start with? I mean, that's always been for us. I mean, even when we talk about internships and trying to set kids up while they're with us. I mean, ideally, right, the best way to be able to get them started is if we can get them into the workforce while they're with us, and then we can provide the supports that they need, right, in order to be able to build those skills and refine the skills that they need to be successful. But one of our challenges is how do we get them there?
Yeah, mobility and transportation lend themselves directly to access. Is there any regulation or requirement that would bar us from using funds for providing discounted bus passes?
I'm not sure. We can check into that. Mhm.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Let's go to Carla first, and then we'll go to Leah.
And Matt first, I think. Sorry,
sorry.
Chair. Yeah.
Let's go to Matt, then Carla, then Leah.
Hi, I'm just gonna layer on to what you just said about the transportation. We did a study that Vibrant Hawaii ran on Hawaii Island, specifically looking at work-based learning opportunities. They spoke to about 1,300 high school and middle school students across the island. And there's a really good table in that report that I'm looking at right now around the barriers that students are reporting that they face in being able to participate in work-based learning. And transportation was definitely up there. It was the second highest, but it was lack of information about what opportunities exist was actually the top.
Interesting. Do you want to share, Matt, your screen? Are you able to?
Oh, yeah, I guess I am. Sorry about that.
No, definitely.
Perfect. And I can share a link to this report that Vibrant Hawaii put together. But this is kind of a breakdown both of what students identified as the barriers and how that compared
Hi, Matt.
to...
It's
Yeah.
C. Can you make the image bigger?
I could try. Here we go.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I'm going to get this lined up here. Right. Here's what students identified as the barriers and how that aligns with what educators were perceiving as the barriers. And, there are some areas where there's alignment. There's some areas where there's some misalignment. But yeah, lack of information was the top, transportation issues. And then I think the other top ones were family obligations and limited opportunities in the fields of interest. But I would suspect that that also could be related to the information, right? The opportunities might be there, but if they don't know about them, it could be leading.
Lack of info first, transport after. Right? How do you even know how to participate if you don't know that there's something to participate in?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would definitely appreciate a link to that later. We'll sidebar that, but thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Carla and then Leah.
I was gonna say the opportunities or the lack of opportunities, not knowing how to access opportunities. I'm not sure about the WIOA, the state programs and their money situation. If they do have excess monies and not enough youth participants. But if that is the case, WIOA does allow for things like support services with transportation, clothing, childcare, if need be. I mean, that is something that's written, but many of the youth don't know about the opportunities. And there's not one website dedicated to youth opportunities, youth employment opportunities. And if you imagine yourself as a 14, 15-year-old wanting to work, I mean, your resume is kind of like empty, and working with a case manager at a WIOA program is something that's perfect because they can help guide them even with the documentation process. And that's very good life skill to learn, to always have that documentation. But I believe the WIOA programs could also help with alleviating some of the support services. But not knowing what opportunities exist is a problem, and accessing those opportunities.
A single source of info via like a single central website is not a bad idea at all.
Oh, yes, that would be just amazing for the youth to access.
Especially
And
because I've seen like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no. Well, then they can work one-on-one with the case manager whose job it is to really take that person by the hand and see them through the process. And I think that's what they need.
Yep. Yep. And especially having a user-friendly single source of info type website, you know, one that's mobile friendly, especially because not every website that's set up is compatible with, or at least transitions over to mobile platforms as easily or as efficiently. And just to share a little of that, like my daughter not so long ago, maybe like a year or two ago, walked up to the TV screen and started like touching the screen to see like how to control things. So teenagers nowadays do definitely know, I think, what a keyboard is, but the younger generation does not as much, right? Even a Bluetooth keyboard is a little bit foreign. So it has to be something that's accessible, usable, and digestible. Because I know that when I first started with Workforce Development Council, at the beginning, all of these many different fun acronyms, and I get it, like if we don't have fancy terms for our stuff, no one will take it seriously. And all of the fancy acronyms, you know, just seemed like jargon at first. And now, you know, after these few months, understanding a greater understanding of the totality of this, but it has to be in a digestible format. It has to be something that can be put into layman's terms for kids that, you know, at high school age or going towards high school age can get it in a 3-sentence snippet. Like the movie pitch has to be in 2 or 3 sentences, and then expand from there. That's not a bad idea at all. Let's go to Leah and then David. I see your hand up.
Okay, thank you. I have like a whole laundry list of ideas on this topic, but I don't want to take up the whole meeting. But I would agree, you know, the first thing is information, you know, making sure that everybody, or that the youth and their families understand what the resources are out there. I think this kind of a meeting is a really good place to kind of reinforce that. At least we all know each other now, and that's a good thing. I think for DVR, obviously we work with, you know, youth as well as adults who have disabilities. And those disabilities could be obvious, like you can see them, or sometimes they're not. Like Matt was showing the screen earlier, learning disabilities. So for us, just so you know, for DVR, if any of you know a youth, a student with a disability, it can be any kind of disability. Any kind of disability, as long as they want to work. It doesn't have to be super significant disability. It can be any kind of disability. But anyway, the other things, I mean, I know personally working for DVR is that a lot of our government agencies have staffing shortages. So I don't know how much that affects, you know, some of their referrals that get made. At DVR right now, we have like a 40% staff vacancy. So it's really rough. Also, when it comes to disabilities, a lot of times the students may not fully understand, you know, what their disability is, or more importantly, what their capabilities are. I know the DOE does a really good job working with them. Sometimes though, when they come to us from the DOE, they're so used to the DOE does so much for them that, you know, sometimes maybe they're not sure how to advocate for themselves, or their families don't know how to advocate for themselves. And so we do work on that with them, and we do the things like trying to help them write their resumes, things like that. The other big, I'll just cut it short, but the other big thing that we see is the lack of the soft skills for employment, you know, initiative, showing up on time, how to relate in real life, not just virtually with other people, how to make small talk, how to act at work. I mean, I could keep going, but I'll stop there.
Lack of soft skills. Yeah. I know also it seems like like a recurring theme so far is like the info blast out there and making sure there's information, the efficient way to go out there. So it sounds a lot like a publicity campaign or an info blast campaign to make sure we get the word out. I mean, that seems like low-hanging fruit, but it also seems like there's more that we will have to explore in there. But that's excellent discussion. Thank you for that.
Sorry, can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
A big thing for us, and I'm sure it's not just for students with disabilities or youth with disabilities, but benefits. If they're on any kind of government benefits, either they or their families might be hesitant about them going to work. So that's a biggie.
So
their
Leah,
benefits get cut.
can you share a little bit more about that? I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar. So what
Hmm.
happens? I mean, is there like a threshold that they cannot cross? Sorry, please educate me.
Yes, normally there's a threshold for earnings. And once they hit a certain amount of earnings, they may lose either their, depends, there's different kinds of benefits. Mostly ours have Social Security benefits. Sometimes it's TANF benefits for the family, things like that. And so in some cases, the families are depending on the kids' benefits, I think. Or the kids just are in this cycle of generations that have been, on benefits. We do, though, provide at DVR, we provide benefits counseling for families and for students to kind of explain to them, and show them not only where their threshold is, but why earning a paycheck, you'd be making more than that, but there's always the fear they're going to lose the job and then they're not going to be able to get the benefits back. Right. That's a huge one for us.
Follow-up question. The threshold once met or passed, like suppose in 1 year they blow past that threshold, and the next year they do not. How difficult a process is it to flip the switch back on to receive those benefits, or are they barred for a significant amount of time?
They have to wait, I believe. I'm not sure exactly of like what the waiting period is, but I think there's just fear maybe around the unknown. Yeah. But I know when they go through the benefits counseling in our program, that's all explained to them. I don't know specifically the answer. They can get back on though for our kids as long as they do have disabilities that prevent them from being able to work. Can probably get back on.
Chair, you have 3 people who have raised hands.
Yep.
So David, Nisa, and C.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, no, not at all. I just wanted to. No, Leah, you're good.
I got him. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
That.
And thank you, Leah. David, let's go.
Awesome. Well, appreciate what everybody shared. Definitely want to echo that. The information piece is hard and it's not unique to Hawaii. I just wanted to share, I had a conversation with somebody from the mayor's office in Denver a couple of weeks ago, and they're running all sorts of really interesting, exciting programs, basically providing money directly to families to support, all sorts of enrichment activities, and even getting families to register, getting to use the money. They're like, it's way harder than we expected. We thought we'd put the money out there and people will come, and it has not worked out that way. So I think the information is just scattered all over the place. People don't have centralized, media that they rely on. A lot of stuff is social, and unfortunately there's a lot of scams and other weird things happening on social. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. It's everybody's challenge right now. 2 other things that are probably a little bit more high level than what's been shared already, but are still very important. We see all the time. One is what folks call social capital. So if you think about maybe even in your own life, but the way that a lot of folks will get a job or an internship is, maybe they have a family member, or they've had a mentor, or they've had an internship. And you think of the ecosystem of folks that are around youth, that in research continues to show that's one of the biggest income divides, is that, rich kids have more high quality contacts who can set them up with all sorts of different opportunities. And kids who are struggling, oftentimes don't have those same level of contacts. And so there are programs and ideas out there on how you can build social capital, but it's something that, no matter how qualified you are on paper, if you have a connection, we all know how powerful that can be. And then the second one is in terms of skills, there's like the formal job skills, and then there's the soft skills, right, that we've talked about already. And then there's like foundational things like, can the kid read? And you hear, we are at a convening, last year about literacy, and the challenge is after a kid generally gets through elementary school, unless they're an English learner, oftentimes they don't get support around basic literacy. So if you don't learn how to read early on, you're going to have to kind of fake it until you make it. And so providing more remedial opportunities for kids to be able to actually build their foundational reading skills is huge, because a lot of times, beyond even just writing a cover letter and a resume, there's sometimes employers will have various process tests or things that they'll use. I know HECO has those kinds of things all the time. So anyways, just two other things, but yeah, I love this conversation.
No, those are great foundational skill sets. That came up in Good Jobs Challenge as well. They're like, you've got very able-bodied, driven young people that are trying to get into the job market, but remedial math and reading skills falling behind, which puts them at the back of the list, or it limits the job opportunities and the level of advancement that they can reach because they're lacking those base foundational skills. Yeah, thank you. Nisa-Ann. Oh no. If you go to, are you on a laptop? Yes. Bottom left corner of the screen, there's the microphone icon and that little up arrow chevron. If you click that up arrow chevron, you should see where your microphone is or which microphone your device is connected to or using. You can also test speaker and microphone. I would check that first so you can speak and record it. And if it plays back to you, then you're being heard. And if not, there's other issues. Let's start there and then we will come back to you. Oh, was that it?
Can you hear me?
Hey-o. Touchdown.
I just hooked up a different speaker. I'm so sorry.
Perfect.
Okay, so I just want to talk about the AJCH's youth program. So just like what Carla said, and David and Leah, we do have, I think it's individualized for us, but all those points to, with the barriers to employment for our youth is transportation, education, the GED, that's why we have the GED program. Support services, yes, Carla. So with our WIOA program, we do provide bus passes, other support services. And it all depends individually on the youth, what they want to do, what's their career pathway. And then we need to remove barriers on an individualized basis, I think, for us. Well, that's what our case managers look at. Driver's license for those that are going through our construction piece, with BIA. Yeah, they get all their certs with OSHA and what have you and BIA, but you can't apply for the union unless you can drive, So it can be a multiple things, but all those barriers that was talked about to employment for our youth, I mean, we see them all here. But again, we focus on the individualized youth and then start removing them as we go with their career pathway goals and plan. Just one, yeah.
Yep. Very good. Another thought came to mind is even for remote work, you would need the hardware and software first to apply for a remote work job. But if you have a computer and you don't know how to use it, that's another barrier, right? If you've never had access to a computer before and don't know what you can do with it, that makes it even more difficult to access certain online things.
Digital literacy. Yep.
Digital literacy. Thank you very much for putting that so much more succinctly. Say Takahashi, and then we'll go back to Carla.
Yeah, so just in case you missed the April meeting, I work at Parents and Children Together, but I do not work directly with youth, but I have background in college counseling. So some of the things that popped into my head listening to you all share your experiences is with the transportation barrier. I'm wondering if the release from school and that gives them enough time to do the commute to get to their job training program, their internships and stuff like that, especially with the bus, because that's going to take a little bit longer than hopping into your own car and driving there. So I'm wondering if that's a barrier. And then I know for a fact that another barrier is having a centralized website. Love it, user-friendly, youth terminology. But one of the things that I know a lot of us have is maintaining that website so that it has the current information. I've gone to websites where they've got like things from like 2 years ago. And then also making sure that not only that you maintain the website, but when people do a internet search, a Google search, that it takes them to the current page, because sometimes the updated page doesn't pop up. So I can see that that could be a barrier. And then regarding the soft skills, one of the things that I've heard from my community partners is that COVID, with that lockdown, really impacted socialization skills and development. A lot of my daughter's a incoming junior, and she said that her underclassmen, they were in the middle to upper elementary age range when we had lockdown. So that's a real crucial time for socialization, to practice those socialization skills with their peers. I could see that rippling into being able to connect and talk with adults who are helping them get that training or are looking for employees. And then I'm also wondering if bias, stereotypes, and prejudice is one of those challenges, because if adults, employers, training coaches, mentors see that a youth has been in, say, for example, a family that has been on welfare for multiple generations, do they have some implicit bias, stereotypes, thoughts about the child, the youth's ability? So just some of those things popped into my mind while listening to all of you share your valuable insight.
It's a good one. Implicit bias training for support staff is a thing. Yeah, and COVID affecting social interactive development. I mean, that's why they call them the quarantines, right? The folks who are stuck behind a screen. My daughter was in preschool at the time, and I tell you,
Yeah.
distance learning preschool
impact.
is as crazy as it sounds. But
yeah,
all good
and
points. And as far as website maintenance as well, that you would have to have someone that's for a web designer or whoever is in charge of maintenance of the website, especially for the designer to be Google certified, because that will bring the website to the top of the search list when you punch in WIOA or opportunities for youth, job opportunities. There's a whole litany of things that a web developer, a site developer would be able to do for us to increase visibility depending on what certifications they have.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have a dedicated person, if it falls under somebody's other related duties, a lot of times they're not going to get to that. And then the going back to the internet, now that the COVID funding discounted internet service provider access has like trickled away, that I can see that also impacting those remote positions, because now they don't have the financial support to afford that. They need to get that job to afford that. But if you don't have it before you get the job, how does that ripple to your ability
Catch-22
to find and maintain? So it's a very catch-22 thing.
Yep. Sweet. Thank you. Catch-22. Carla, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
If we can get many of these youth aware of and applying to our WIOA providers, they have WIOA has a work experience component where it's really no risk or low risk, no cost to employers, where, they place the youth with the employer, the program pays the wages, pays the support services, and it's a way for the youth to build their soft skills, be connected to a mentor. The provider, I'm sure, will select sites that tend not to have bias, because you learn along the way, even what employers maybe to even avoid, because they're not a good mentoring type of site. And you know, the youth can work during spring break, Christmas break, summer break. And so I think the youth providers right now, what Nisa was sharing, they do a good job. The services are one-on-one. I don't know their funding situation, if they have enough money, if they have enough staff. I would like to hear from the youth providers as we go on, but they have some great components that we can channel and refer a lot of these youth to. I don't mean to overburden you or, you know, but overwhelm the programs, but I think it's a very valuable resource. Thank
Copy
you.
that. And I think getting the information out will also, Rick, I think it's on us to boil it down to one-pagers for students to see, you know, we'll have to partner with DOE to make sure that like they understand the components of these programs in a digestible, easy to understand, straightforward, layman's terms way, something that's accessible and digestible, that will partner with DOE to make sure that it's in the format they want to see, in a way that counselors or whoever the appropriate staff is to get the word out in easy to digest one pages that they can just, maybe they just stuff it in their backpack, maybe it floats around their house for a little bit, or maybe it goes directly onto the fridge. One way or another, at least getting the word out there. And I don't think it would be a disservice to us. I think it would be in the line of the talk that we're having right now to get the word out in as many different ways as we can, so that it's everywhere. So that like even to the point of maybe like putting it on like a commercial that runs by the news or something. I don't know, on what's it called? Olelo channels and public access channels, things of that nature. I know that Olelo used to do a thing where if your organization was a nonprofit, you got like a free commercial. I don't know if that program's still running. That might be something we want to look into. Just spread the word far and wide in as many avenues as we can.
Social media too, maybe.
Social media too. And I think a social media like manager or social media director wouldn't be a bad idea either. But that's a full-time job. Like there are some folks even in my union that are like, I don't think it should take too much for you to maintain the website and to manage all of our social media and to do your regular job. Like it's unheard of. It's inhumane to have somebody to do like 5 jobs, and especially one as intense as that, potentially intense as that, for volunteer work. It's a big ask, but it's a great idea. Let's go to Matt Stevens and then Steve.
One thing that came up for me as you were describing that, I think easy digestible is definitely key. And I think the other thing to consider is, in some of the work that we've done, talking to communities and speaking with youth, asking about what are the types of jobs that are going to help you feel like you have a path to stay here in Hawaii. And the ability to contribute back to community comes up time and time again. We have endless number of quotes of kids saying, they don't have a dream job, they have a dream community role. And so being able to work with youth, right, to even test out some job descriptions and understand the language and what is it they're looking for in a job, right? And not every job gives back to community. Can't be expected that that's the case, but there might be ways you can describe a job description differently, right? That really align with a lot of the values and things that youth are looking for. So could be a good opportunity to engage youth in understanding that and testing out some of these things that are going to get better responses.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best ways to fully, ostracize the youth are telling them exactly what it is all the time and don't ask for any input from them. But yeah, and maybe that's a reverse engineer situation, right? We start with their end goal, the vision that they have, and then reverse engineer the steps for them so that they can see the pathway that they've laid out for themselves, and then they can manifest it for themselves. It's not a bad idea at all. Steve, go ahead.
Hey gang, so I was purposely like sitting in the background because I really don't want to volunteer to write a website for you guys, but I will tell you that I happen to own a for-profit that publishes about 200 websites that are local. We do a lot of the back end for the major agencies here. We're pretty steeped in web, and I can tell you that I can tell from the conversation you guys are kind of about maybe 5 years behind the curve as to what a website can and will do. But all that said, I think the main takeaways that you guys might consider is that websites are entirely publishable now by staff. So for example, if you're on a platform like WordPress, we can have unlimited numbers of authors, with user accounts. Then you can even sequester them to certain areas of editing of a website. So there's really no reason why this committee can't actually split it up and say, David, you do one page, Tui, you do another page, somebody else handles social media, somebody else handles newsletters. If you guys try to job this stuff out, you will have a morass of hurt like you cannot believe, because nobody outside the organization really knows the story or the strategy of what's trying to be achieved here. But in terms of the technology of it all now, basically all platforms are plug and play now. So Chewy, to your point on, it's called being responsive, which means that a website restacks for a different viewing device. We know through our work with Youth Services that, the people most at risk all have phones. So you have to really engineer to the mobile environment, but that doesn't mean it's a website that's only for mobile, because all themes now go both ways. They go to mobile, to pad, and to desktop. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. Search engine optimization is what you guys also referred to. That's really about good writing skills. It's not really that you have to be Google certified. Probably your best SEO people are not Google certified, but it really is common sense writing. In fact, we wrote a curriculum that uses SEO theory to teach better modern English, because what search engines do is they basically serve content that's the most credible, most authoritative, and most directly answers a search inquiry. So in a sense, it's the best way to write. So rather than write, Tui, when you talk about a log line, I mean, I'm seeing increasingly film festivals want like a single sentence. They don't want three. And I guarantee if you write 3 sentences on a website, nobody reads it. So because it's too much content for them, right? So, how do you write in sound bites? How do you use metaphor effectively? How do you write poetically? These are all things that are at the core of what it is to publish a great website today. It's not so much a matter of the technology, it's more the matter of the content providers. And so my advice to you guys is figure out a pathway whereby the message is written internally. And if you need help, then we can always supply people to kind of train all of you guys on what is best practice writing for the internet today. I would actually tell you that you can use AI to teach yourself. So for example, if you write something and you put it into ChatGPT and you say, please rewrite this for a homepage of a website, you'll be amazed at how much better that content turns out. And it's in a nanosecond. Okay, so this is what all the kids are using, and you guys should use them too, because all the tools are free. They're all out there to be used. It's not an area where we want to pass the buck. I think all of us should just jump in and make it happen. And I'm happy to talk you guys down on this one.
So dubbed protector of the realm. Bennett, if we were to engage in services with a for-profit company as a state council committee, whatever, what is the process? Is there like
there's a lot of, I am also a little bit new to this process, but I know there's a state procurement laws that we are governed by. So how about we offline this conversation? I will make a note that we need to follow up, and we'll take it from there. Obviously, we want to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, things like that have to be checked off. But definitely, it's worth pursuing a conversation.
I can help you with that also, because running the studio Ideate, we ran into all this stuff. So there are limits as to what can be approved at whatever levels. But at the same time, I will tell you that, and this is why I wasn't volunteering to do this site for you guys, is that websites are living documents. They don't,
Yeah.
you don't just say, I make it, I publish it, it's done. They completely morph over time. So I think what you need to be cognizant on is to create sustainability behind it is not so much the actual build of it, it is the people behind it. And those people probably
And to sustain
this
it.
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, let's not confine our discussion to like government funds. There's
Yep.
certainly, you know, private funds or entities that may be willing to sponsor them. Yeah, so which
Dream
might
big
even
first
be,
and then,
which may even be easier to navigate.
yeah, copy that.
I think Matt has his
Yeah,
hands
yeah.
raised.
There was something else I was going to say. Yeah, and finding the balance between creating access for all the members that are here to contribute, and also keeping the reins on it so it doesn't spiral out of control. Because it's not just about our committee, right? It is for the youth, at least for that section of the dreamed up website that will be one day, but also for the rest of the council as well, so that they can reach their target audiences as well, and having their own corners of the sky within this umbrella as we move forward. That's great. It's great. Thanks, Steve. Let's go to Matt.
Real quick, this part of the conversation reminded me that there is already a platform that DLAR has called HiCan that might appeal to youth, but I don't think, from my understanding, it's been tested specifically for that demographic. Because what it does is it sits on top of job descriptions, right, that are already in HireNet, job postings, and it allows someone to upload their resume and uses AI to parse out the skills and do the skills mapping between skills I have, where I could learn skills for the jobs I qualify for today, and identify 2 or 3 jobs that if I gained a skill or 2. So, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to build upon that and test it and optimize it specifically for a youth audience, since that's already there and the procurement side of things is already taken care of.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, like, it's not really our Kuleana because there are other committees out there, but each demographic has its own challenges and hurdles, and the ways in which they need to cater to their specific demographics is going to be a question that they will have to answer, and we're not going to answer for them because they can do their own homework. But that is so great discussion. This is a great segue that we've kind of already stumbled into the second question of the successful strategies and programs you've implemented to overcome these barriers and what outcomes you've preserved, and the specific examples or case studies of youth who have benefited from them. So we kind of stumbled into that one organically, which is kind of fun. Let's see. One of the ones I'm going to throw out there. What are the barriers that your organizations, with the work that you're doing, what are some of the barriers that you are experiencing? And one of them, I think we've gone over it quite a bit at length, is the lack of information out there for what we're doing. But aside from the lack of information, for the work that you are doing currently, what are some of the barriers that you are experiencing that you need help with so that we can affect greater change in the islands? Steve, is your hand still up from the last time, or is that a new thing? Probably still up from the last one. Thank you. Anybody, throw it out there. What are you experiencing right now? What do you need help with?
I was gonna say, I have to figure out how to raise my hand. I don't know how to raise my hand.
It's all good.
I think for me and the work that we're doing, we would like more opportunities to offer our kids. And for us, we would like to be able to offer opportunities across all of our pathways and programs and studies. You know, hospitality and healthcare has offered a lot, I think, of opportunities, but we don't have as many opportunities to get our kids experience in the workforce in, like, say, the trade section, and we're building on that. IT, and I know we're working on, you know, the creative industry side too.
Yep.
But, you know, like, I think for us, the more opportunities we can give our kids and across the state too, right?
Yep.
We have a lot more opportunities available here on Oahu than we do on our neighbor islands. So
Copy that. Sounds like another outreach to Steve. Who else? Anybody else? What are you experiencing right now? Leah, go ahead.
Okay, so for us, and I think this was kind of mentioned earlier, but especially when working with youth with disabilities, who may also be in other programs like Justice Involved and others. If we got them well trained, they've got the soft skills, they've got the technical skills and all that. What we find is the biggest barrier to getting them employment is sometimes the misconceptions of the employers. Oh gosh, somebody with a disability, what does that conjure up in your head, right? So maybe there's something the committee can do to help with that. But that's also a lot of what we do, is trying to go out and talk to employers and about these misconceptions.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, but that seems like a sidebar for you two to have. It seems like you two you might be able to help more in that area, huh? Carla, what do you think?
I mean, biases from employers. Yes, absolutely. And breaking, it's just so valuable to find an employer, a work site that whose priority is to invest in youth and mentor youth, or even young adults, or even older adults, and realize that somebody has to start by wanting to invest in the lives of other people. And when you can find people who are committed to that, and you keep them as a work site, and you put youth and adults over there. But, I haven't figured out how to break down some of those ways of thinking for a lot of the other populations. Yeah, a lot of the other employers out there. Yeah.
Maybe that is also reaching out to employer participants, and going back to what C was saying about implicit bias training, and making sure that that's something that is covered for everybody. So that's just it no longer is a non-starter. We can just push that, overcome that hurdle right out the gate. Anyone who is participating, having this implicit bias training, would then be, I think, better equipped to assist with that. These are all pie in the sky things. It's not anything that we're going to solve in one meeting right now, but thank you very much, all of you, for having the courage to stand up and say some stuff about what's going on with you. C, let's go to you.
For me, as a coalition coordinator for Underage Drinking Prevention Coalition, is the actual getting in touch with youth to come and be a part of our youth council. We had a strong youth council before I joined Parents and Children Together. But with the pandemic, like most of us experienced, the participation trickled down, and then we're having a hard time bringing that back up. So for me, it's connecting, getting to the youth to have them be part of our youth council. And one of the big things that I would like to work with them on is having them create social media content that will connect to their peers. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because underage drinking, there's a lot of risk factors that put them in danger of underage drinking. And then that itself becomes a risk factor for academic success and then workforce success. So connecting with all of you to help me connect with you to work collaboratively on that prevention component to build our workforce can definitely put in the parking lot, but any insight and support that you folks can provide would be greatly appreciated. I think there will be a value of supporting each other's work there.
Yeah. That sounds like lateral organizing. So I don't know how familiar anybody else is with this. The top-down organizing is when leadership says, this is what you're doing. Grassroots, ground-up organizing is when the people stand up and say, leadership, this is what you want to do. But then the lateral organizing piece of it is getting once you've generated buy-in, then you get, folks organizing across that same latitude to make sure that they've got
Yeah.
that their
Yeah.
success stories speak volumes to the people that are next to them. That it's not always organically, but sometimes it is. Get folks to empower themselves through the stories of success that they themselves have, right? When they're on the same rung, same rank and file.
Yeah, absolutely, Therese. The way I always envision it in my brain is to take those silos and imagine them being laid down and having them be like strings, lohala, where
Yeah.
we weave what used to be those silos to create a really solid, like if we use the analogy of lohala, weave all of the tasks that each organization, work group, what have you, does, work in collaboration to create a strong safety net basket, so then that way we can hold together and lift up our youth, our families, our community, what have you. So, in the parking lot, and then if anybody wants to help me with that and collaborate on that, please let me know. You guys have my contact information.
All right. Yeah, copy that. Let's go to David Rodriguez. What's happening?
How's it going? Yeah, my thoughts were that, with one of the barriers, I think, is that the youth have this elevated expectation that that has, work-life balance, control over what they work on and how they do it, as well as more expected demands for good pay, financial stability, and fulfillment. I mean, I grew up in a generation where you're told you pay your dues, but I don't think the youth are like that now.
Yep. I would also say that I agree with the youth that it's the work-life balance that I grew up with was work 96 hours a week, figure it out, and kind of just baptism by fire. But I don't think that works necessarily for this generation. So I think we need to bridge the gap of how to get them to where they need to be while also letting them know some of I will say that like the harsh realities of the world are taught to us whether we're ready for them or not. And that I think the world is harsh enough as it is, that it's already difficult enough. I think it's important to uplift them and to give them some place soft to land before the world is going to, kick the crap out of them for a little bit in the job market. I don't think it has to be so bleak of a, go to work, do it, stop complaining. It was what I was told when I was in the field, and it was never fun, and it was certainly unhealthy. So I do want to create a healthier space. I want to make it a better, more humane space in the work environment. But I do hear you that, for instance, a member who will remain nameless of ours that wanted to, out of the blue, run for a very high level position in the legislative world. We're like, dude, you gotta like create the path for yourself. You can't just like jump from the get-go straight to the top. It doesn't work. Like there has to be a path for them to advance, right? There has to be a logical path for advancement and not just immediate. I've been watching football from my house and I really love the game. I really think that I should be the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Like that's not realistic, but at the same time, I hear you. And at the same time, I want to create a humane experience for them.
It's like the barrier why, younger people tend to jump jobs every 2-3 years, because they're ambitious and they want. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
After that, thank you. Leah, you had your hand up?
I did, but I don't know if Debbie or David have something still following on what you're talking about now. Otherwise,
Copy that. Sorry. You want to go? You can.
no, I'll wait.
Okay. Debbie, then David.
Can you hear me?
Yep, good check.
No, when you were talking about barriers that a lot of the we may personally have, as you know, we work with a lot of high-risk youth who are involved in violence, and so part of our strategy is first to stop the violence and through our counseling, and then refer them, and it takes a while because we average about 3 to 4 years with our kids. We don't have problems getting kids. We have 23 groups that we work with currently, from Makaha to Kaimoki. Um, it's the other issue that we personally have is we have this great group of kids who we have captured audience, and when we can start working, when they're stopping the violence and focusing back on school and getting into thoughts of jobs, some of the problems is people want us to always bring them to them instead of being mobile enough to come to us and go through it and infuse it within our curriculum that we have. The one thing that we cannot do is just keep taking kids off campus. That's a process, as Manel knows. We have to file, paperwork to take them off of campus. So we can't just take them off campus. So we do offer them to come and invite them to our sessions, but not flexible enough to say, well, oh, but we do it during this time. This is our orientation. This is our stuff. And so I can't offer you anything else because my kids are with us at this time on the campus. And so asking for some flexibility that I know over at Youth Bill or Nisa's group, I work a lot with Lei Nakamura, and she's very flexible, and having her counselors come out and talk to our kids because we can capture the group as a whole. The one thing that we learned, when you sell it to one kid, they're going to tell the rest of their friends, and everybody follows that job. Everybody follows that program, whatever program we put them in, So I think, if we can look at a little bit more mobility with the programs, I mean, I don't have control over that. I'm just sharing how we work with others. So that really helps because our kids are quite shy. I mean, they act out in different ways, but in other ways, they're very shy. And so when it comes to this, I want to also echo David, as the social capital networking is so important. We've been working with P20 on this for a couple of years now and really trying to figure out how to build better social capital network for our kids because it's so limited. Their families don't have that. And of course, they depend on our staff to really be that network for them. But, if we can create better network for these kids so they have opportunities to connect, I think that'd be great. But I just wanted to share my Kuliana.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think it's also really a great point that you brought up, the shyness, that's a trauma response, right? Like that's a direct learned response to being hurt, is hesitancy to step forward. That fear comes from a place of pain. And it's really important to bridge that gap. How we do it is not a simple answer, but it's definitely worth noting. Thank you for that. Let's go to David.
Awesome. Wow. This is a really rich and interesting conversation. So just to kind of throw something out that might, connect with a few other points, including what David is sharing earlier about some of the generation gap. One piece that we found time and time again is a need for foundational financial literacy. The student council, the state student council, every year polls its members about their top interests and desires. And for many years running, it seems like financial literacy is item number one. And a number of students have come back after graduation and testified to the legislature and Board of Education saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I went out into the real world without a lot of this basic information. And so I think, there's a few complicated things happening all at once. One is, the reality of inflation and just where, economies are in Hawaii and elsewhere. The margin for error is slim, right? And so folks feel that pressure. You have the trauma response, right, from just everything these kids have gone through in the last, 5+ years. And then you have social media, which, has some positives, especially if it's a way for, marginalized youth to connect with each other, find each other. But there's a lot of bad information out there. I think, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of scams. And so sometimes students get conflicting messaging about like, oh, things should be easier, right? Or like, I am being mistreated and I should be expecting something better, but they're not necessarily given tangible tools or skills for like how to actually move forward. So an example that always that is very present in the work that we're doing in some of our grants is around college affordability. And this generation, it's pretty borne out by surveys and other research. They're much more cost conscious than any others for good reason, right? There have been lots of stories now about folks falling into debt and, feeling the consequences of making a bad investment maybe in higher education. And that's not true for every single opportunity. So especially for our local programs, right? For, let's say, our community colleges, if a student is local, they complete the FAFSA, they get Hawaii Promise, community college is essentially free, right? But that doesn't make the headlines the same way that I'm, 25 years old and $200,000 in debt.
Yeah.
So I think it's a yes, and like that we want to prepare our students for the challenges and the threats of the real world, but they need to navigate it with like legit maps, right? And real guides to what they can do, because again, evidence, data, everything still backs up the value of a post-secondary degree, but how you go about it, there's a lot of nuance in there, and our youth aren't getting that message, right? Like you'll see even UHERO at the UH will say like, oh, you can earn $2 million more in your lifetime. That doesn't mean anything to a kid, right? Does that mean the difference between buying a used truck and a brand new truck? Maybe, right? But it's rarely broken down into something tangible that folks can understand. So I think, as a consequence, students are much more cautious about what they're willing to, to put themselves out to try. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense.
For sure. And there was definitely a stigma around community college growing up. They're like, if you weren't going to a 4-year college somewhere else, there was some kind of shame associated with it for going to a community college, when that should not be the case at all. Especially if you can get such a discounted rate to get your general ed credits out of the way, so that you spend less time at a higher end institution and less time, racking up hundreds of $1,000s of debt, but also like pointing them towards the degrees that will directly impact. This goes back to Matt's comment, I think, about reverse engineering from goal to start point, so that they have a pathway that's out there. So they're not just going out for no offense to anyone who has one of these, a blanket liberal arts degree that's just about stuff. Like, I have a bachelor's just cause, right? But mapping it out for them, I think that's a great point about giving kids a map to operate with. Because it certainly felt like, for me at least, it was like kicked out of a plane at 35,000 feet. Make sure that when you land, grab the bullet train going the opposite direction. Go now. You don't really have time to think about it. Figure it out on the fly. Feels like a video game where I've advanced skill points and skill trees that I absolutely should not have. And some of the things are randomly associated with, where you were born and what zip code.
And to that point, there's a UHERO report, and I can email it afterwards if that's helpful, but basically shows the gap. See if I can describe this right. The gap between those folks who have started their bachelor's degree and not finished, it's about a $10,000 gap between those who actually, in terms of income, those who actually went on to complete. The gap is almost as big, or it's very close to those who have an associates of science. Associates, the arts, it's not close, but those who get associates of science, like especially in the health professions or engineering, like there's clear value there. So it's like you said, not all degrees are economically built the same. And so when we're talking about students about their opportunities post-secondary, we need to be a lot more nuanced about how we describe, those opportunities that are available to them.
I will also throw this caveat out there that I'm a theater major, and I do wholeheartedly believe that the arts make us better people and better human beings, help us to appreciate and understand the nuances of our world. So just wanted to throw that caveat out there as well.
Can
We've
we
got
get a sample, Chair?
what's that?
Can we get a sample? No, I'm
A
kidding.
sample?
A
Yeah, you
sample.
can.
Yeah.
Sample? Yeah, but we
Sample
don't
of
have-
a theater.
yeah.
If it's
yeah,
if it's musical theater, I vote something from Hamilton.
no. Add an emphasis
Or
in
Jersey
Shakespeare.
Boys. Jersey Boys too.
Add an emphasis
will
in
be
Shakespeare.
perfectly
The old
fine.
Bard saved
Oh
my
yeah,
life
that's right.
many
That's
times
right.
over.
He is. He actually is so awesome.
And
I have heard
yeah,
him.
used to do a bunch of spoken word touring, all of that stuff. My job was a performing artist for a while. And then I started working behind the scenes, and now I find myself behind a desk. All that aside, yes, later sidebar, you want to hear stuff, I'm more than happy to. And we used to do outreach to youth. I worked with a company or an organization called Youth Speaks Hawaii. And the whole goal, the mission statement was the next generation can speak for themselves, right? How to amplify their voices and empower them to stand up and find their story and tell their story effectively. But that is a story for another time. We've got about 11 minutes left, and I do want to make sure that we leave some time for the public to announce any upcoming events, because that's a thing that's on the agenda. But let's go to Leah and then Say, and then thank you all so much for this robust discussion. This has been awesome. This has been a lot of fun. Leah first and then Say.
Yeah, can we do this again? I feel like we need to keep talking like this.
Continue conversation on this. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing that has been successful for us with our students or any of the people that we work with is not only knowing organizations, but finding someone who's willing to be a career mentor. To have someone that comes in and says, oh, I don't know, I might want to be a plumber, but I want to be able to pick up the phone. I mean, I do know a lot of people in different occupations, but find somebody on a list that says, hey, I'm willing to talk to someone about what I do, or to even go, if they're willing to even go further and be a champion for that person, or a hero, a mentor. That's something that's really effective.
Career mentors, copy that. See.
Tui, thank you. First and foremost for sharing the reflections of the bias that came along with going to a community college. Growing up, that was very much what I experienced. But as a parent, I have also experienced that the bias is still there. My daughter is an incoming junior, and her school really, really pushes the kids to get into a tier 1 school. So with a very, very low acceptance rate, that's what they measure student success as. And when I used to go to her high school, it was all about different pathways, and they would celebrate whether the Pomona was going into the workforce, 4-year program, 2-year program, trade school, military. And it's so, the push for a tier 1 is so strong that she came home one day and tier 1 program. So obviously, so out of state, so not in Hawaii. So our kiddos go outside of the state for their education and run into the $200,000, $300,000 debt for themselves and their family. She actually came up to my husband and I, and she was just on her soapbox, and she said that people who go to, only the dumb kids go to community college or UH. Okay, now keep in mind, my husband got his bachelor's and his master's at UH, and I got my master's at UH. And we just said, hey, pump the brakes. Where is this coming from? And she says, my goal is to get into a tier 1 school. And my husband and I had no idea what a tier 1 school was. We had to look it up. And I said, why? And she goes, because that's what's getting drilled into me and my classmates. Right. So I think we need to work to dispel that prejudice and that stereotype, because some of our youth may want to go to a trade school because they want to take over their family automotive business, their AC refrigeration, and there is no shame in going into blue collar service work through going through a community college.
Make low six figures right there.
I know. It's like, I always tell my kids, it's like, if you're science inclined, go into AC and refrigeration, because you can live in Hawaii and you're always going to have a job, especially with climate change.
There's the brain
Especially
drain
with
right
climate
there.
change. Yeah.
There's the brain drain.
Yes, I
Is
think
that-
we need to work with our schools to say, let the students choose the program that's work best for you. Because I also know through working with their counseling department that a lot of the students who get into tier 1, they drop out because they can't handle the pressure. They're away from home, and then they go into a non-tier 1 program.
Yeah.
So I think we need to help our schools flip the switch on what they consider student success.
Yep.
And really focus on student choice. So I'm going to put my soapbox away now. I'm just agreeing with y'all.
You're right. You're
and
right.
providing insight as to what my
But really,
16-year-old came home and
really-
said one day.
Really and truly, that's the brain drain right there, right? The stigma that only the dumb kids go UH, only like the failures, all you get left is your last choice is UH. And if you don't go to Harvard or Princeton, or Brown, then you're a failure, right? And it's a lie. But especially when we talk about like losing the true assets that we have, the people of these islands, to these kind of mythological stigmas that we've built up, there's the brain drain. There's the lack of folks who get to live and thrive here. I think that is something that we can do. It's going to be a heavy lift, but it's something we're going to have to do over the course of the next few minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years. That's one of those that success is rented and the rent is due every day kind of deals. All right, we've had a robust discussion and I've had a lot of fun doing this. We're running short on time. So at this time, I want to make sure that we leave some space for the public to, the public is welcome to announce any upcoming events and comment on relevant issues that were not included in this meeting's agenda, but please be advised that in compliance with the Sunshine Law, the committee cannot discuss or act on issues that were not included in this meeting's agenda. But issues raised during this period may be included in future agenda for the committee's consideration. I would ask that anyone from the public who wishes to share something, please be succinct, as we got about 5 minutes left because discussion was so good. You guys are great. Would anyone care to share any upcoming events or things or stuff? Isan, go ahead.
Hi, so the American Job Center will be having a hiring event at the Blaisdell Arena on July 13th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
What was the date again?
July 13th. It's a Saturday.
July 13th. From 9 a.m.
9 to 2. And we're going to have over 100 employers there. So come on down.
100 employers. Copy that. Thank you. C, go ahead.
So Community Works in 96744, the community coalition that I manage to prevent underage drinking. We are hosting a Pokemon health fair in August on the 10th at Windward Mall, and I will send you folks the flyer. But if you are interested in coming and joining us, I think this would be a great opportunity to even hit on question number 4 that was on our agenda about social, emotional, mental health, wellness, and how that connects to job readiness and our youth workforce development. So registration closes on July 19th. I'm going to send you guys a flyer. And if you folks would like to participate, please come down and enjoy us. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to celebrate the winners of our virtual art contest. And I will send that flyer to you folks also. So if you know a youth who lives on the Windward Coast, and that is from Waimanalo all the way up to Sunset Beach, and they're between 9 and 18, they can submit original works of art. There's 4 categories and 2 ways to win.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other community events or events announcements from the public? Okay, seeing none. The next meeting is scheduled for, I have it written down as Thursday, July 17th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., but July 17th is a Wednesday. Bennett, do you know if it's Thursday the 18th or is it Wednesday the 17th? Do you know? Sorry, you're muted.
It is the 17th because 18th was already picked up by employer engagement.
Copy that. So the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 17th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. at room 314 in that building.
Okay.
Very good. So thank you all for your participation. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 2:28 p.m. Give you 2 minutes of your life back. Thank you all so much for the
Thank
courage
you.
and participation. Appreciate you all.
Appreciate it. Aloha.
Have a great